Most gardeners spend hours every week watering their raised beds, constantly checking soil moisture and worrying about plants drying out. But what if I told you most of that effort is unnecessary? That your raised beds could stay consistently moist for months, even in hot weather, without you ever dragging a hose across your garden? This isn't a gimmick. I've tested it across multiple raised beds, container gardens, and even larger backyard vegetable plots, and the results are stunning. But before I dive in, let's talk about a common mistake that keeps gardeners in a constant cycle of watering. Most raised beds dry out quickly because gardeners rely solely on surface watering. Water doesn't penetrate deeply enough, soil dries from the top down, and roots never develop fully. Plants respond by wilting, nutrient uptake slows, and yields shrink. You may think adding mulch solves the problem, but mulch only slows evaporation. It doesn't create a permanent underground moisture reservoir. That's why I started using a 4-in-1 soil moisture meter, which measures moisture, soil temperature, pH, and sunlight levels. I discovered that many of my raised beds had dry pockets just a few inches below the surface, even after I'd watered. That's when I realized the solution wasn't watering more. It was storing water where roots could access it naturally. I'll leave the exact one I use in the description if you want to check it out. The deep log trick changed everything. The technique is simple in concept, but honestly, it's pretty powerful in practice. You take a partially decomposed log, dig a trench down the center of your raised bed, and bury the log vertically or horizontally. That log acts like a sponge, soaking up water when you do water, and then slowly releasing it into the soil over time. I first tried this on a 4x8-foot raised bed. I placed a cedar log about 8 inches deep, backfilled the trench, and planted directly around it. The difference became clear within 2 weeks. Where other beds dried out by mid-morning, the bed with the buried log remained consistently damp even through a stretch of hot sun. When you water from the top, most of the water either runs off the sides of the raised bed or just evaporates from the top layer of soil. Only a fraction reaches the deeper roots where it's actually needed. Over time, this creates uneven growth. The top roots thrive temporarily, but the deeper roots remain weak. Weak roots mean plants are more susceptible to stress, pests, and disease. By contrast, the buried log stores water deep in the bed, mimicking natural forest soils. Trees and forests maintain moisture through organic matter layers, logs, fallen leaves, decomposing branches, which gradually release water down to the root zone. The deep log trick applies that same principle to raised beds. Not all wood is equal. Hardwood logs like oak, chestnut, or cedar work best because they decompose slowly, giving you months of consistent moisture release. Avoid softwoods that rot too quickly, or treated wood that may leach chemicals into your soil. The log should be partially decomposed already. Fresh-cut wood absorbs water poorly and can even draw nitrogen from the soil as it begins to decompose. Pre-decomposed wood already contains some microbial activity and will integrate faster into your soil ecosystem. Alright, so to get started, you'll want to dig a trench right in the center of your raised bed, about 6 to 8 inches deep. Then go ahead and place the log in the trench, either horizontally along the length of the bed or vertically, depending on how much space you have and what your plant layout looks like. After that, just backfill the trench with a mix of soil and compost. This will make sure there's good contact between the log and the surrounding soil. Once everything's planted, give it a light watering to help the log start soaking up some moisture. Over the next few weeks, you'll notice roots naturally growing toward the log, tapping into that slow-release water and really benefiting from all the microbial activity happening around it. I've even used this little trick in larger container systems by burying smaller logs vertically, and honestly, the plants did way better than those in containers without any logs. Mulch is still useful, no doubt about it. A good thick layer of straw, leaves or wood chips will help cut down on surface evaporation, keep the soil temperature steady, and add organic matter as it breaks down. But mulch by itself just can't replace that deep moisture storage. When you combine mulch with a buried log, you're really layering your water retention system. Mulch slows evaporation at the surface, while the log acts as a deep reservoir for the roots below. Even with logs, it's important to check soil moisture, especially during the first few weeks after installation. That's where a 4-in-1 soil moisture meter comes in handy. You can measure moisture at multiple depths to ensure the log is actually transferring water downward and roots are accessing it effectively. In my experience, the meter prevents overwatering. Some gardeners assume the log will hold enough water on its own, but without occasional observation, plants at the edge of the bed may still dry out. With this tool, you can check moisture quickly, adjust watering if needed, and optimize plant growth without guesswork. The deep log trick also benefits soil biology. Logs aren't just water reservoirs, they create a living micro-ecosystem. Decomposing wood attracts fungi, bacteria, and earthworms. Roots grow directly toward this microbial hotspot, enhancing nutrient uptake. Over time, your soil becomes richer, more crumbly, and better at retaining water. I've noticed that beds with buried logs host more worms, larger fungal networks, and just healthier root systems compared to beds without logs. The benefits aren't just about moisture, they're really biological. I actually tested tomatoes, peppers, and leafy greens using the deep log method. And within just a few weeks, the plants had deeper root systems and noticeably stronger stems. Even during those dry periods, the leaves stayed turgid, and growth didn't slow down at all. The yield difference is, honestly, pretty impressive. In one 4-by-8-foot bed, I harvested almost 30% more tomatoes than in a neighboring bed that was watered daily without a log. And I spent far less time hauling water too. For larger garden plots, multiple logs can be buried along rows, spaced every 2 to 3 feet depending on your plant density. Even in smaller raised beds or containers, a single vertical log provides a significant moisture boost. The key is consistency in placement. Logs should contact the root zone directly, otherwise plants won't benefit fully. Using untreated or chemical-treated wood can harm soil biology. Placing logs too shallowly may cause them to dry out quickly. Logs that are too fresh can temporarily draw nitrogen from soil, slowing plant growth. And ignoring soil monitoring means you may still underwater or overwater in spots. That's why tools like the 4-in-1 soil moisture meter are honestly just invaluable. They let you measure moisture at different depths, check soil temperature, and even monitor pH and sunlight. So you end up with a complete picture of your raised bed conditions. Once you install a deep log system, your raised beds become far less dependent on constant surface watering. The soil, it really becomes self-regulating. Microbes and roots thrive together, and plants grow stronger with less effort. So it's a simple principle borrowed from forest ecology: store water in organic reservoirs underground, release it slowly, and just let plants tap into it naturally. This is honestly the kind of technique that serious gardeners really appreciate, because it's not a gimmick, it's a real, tested, results-driven method that works in multiple growing systems. Watering isn't the solution to raised bed dryness, soil design is. By incorporating partially decomposed logs into your beds, you create an underground water reservoir, stimulate microbial activity, and promote deep root growth. Combined with mulch and, occasional monitoring using a 4-in-1 soil moisture meter, your beds can stay consistently moist and productive with far less effort. If you're serious about improving your garden long-term and want plants that thrive with less maintenance, try the deep log trick. Share this video with gardeners who are constantly watering and struggling with dry beds. It could save them hours every week and improve their harvest dramatically. And hey, if you want more practical, tested gardening techniques like this, subscribe to the channel for hands-on advice, soil biology secrets, and methods that actually produce results in real gardens.